Have you ever sat in silence, wondering if God is still watching over you? Maybe you've whispered a prayer into the darkness of your room, your face soaked in tears, and felt like no one was listening. You've done everything right. You've tried, you've stayed strong, you've held on, but the pain still lingers. The rejection still stings. The future still feels uncertain. And in that silence, you begin to ask yourself, why me? Why now? Why does life feel so unfair? It's a question many hearts carry, not because they lack faith, but because they're tired. Because life at times becomes a series of unanswered questions, of closed doors, of dreams that slip just out of reach. But what if the silence isn't emptiness? What if it's protection? What if the things that didn't happen, the people who walked away, the moments that shattered your plans were all part of a greater mercy? You see, sometimes protection doesn't feel like a miracle. It feels like heartbreak. Sometimes the door that didn't open saved you from a storm you never saw coming. Sometimes the person who left made space for your healing to begin. Sometimes the delay in your plans was the very thing that kept you from breaking completely. This isn't just a hopeful idea. It's a truth deeply rooted in faith. There's a powerful reminder in the Quran that says, "But you may dislike something while it is good for you, and you may like something while it is bad for you. God knows, and you do not know." That verse alone holds so much healing, because it tells us even when we don't understand, even when we don't see the wisdom, God is still protecting, still guiding, still caring for you in ways your heart hasn't even realized yet. You're not being ignored, you're being guarded. So if you've been walking through life feeling invisible, forgotten or lost, stay with me. Because what may feel like chaos right now could be the quiet unfolding of something far better than what you had planned. In this video, we'll talk about 6 powerful signs that show God is still protecting you even when you feel broken. These signs may already be present in your life, but you've been too overwhelmed to see them. Let's take this journey together. Let's shift the way we look at pain. Let's uncover the hidden mercy that often shows up in the form of unanswered prayers. Because maybe, just maybe, what broke you wasn't meant to destroy you, it was meant to protect you. And God never leaves the heart that turns to Him. Not ever. Let's talk about those moments when life takes a turn you didn't expect and certainly didn't want. You gave your best to that relationship, but it ended. You poured your effort into a job, but you were let go. You planned, prayed, and pushed through, but things still fell apart. In those moments, it's easy to believe that something has gone terribly wrong, that maybe you're being punished, that maybe you're not worthy of God's help. But I want to gently ask you to consider something different. What if those setbacks weren't failures but signs? What if the things that left your life were never meant to stay? What if the pain you're feeling right now is actually part of your protection? What if through all this, God is guiding you away from harm you cannot see? You see, protection doesn't always come with clarity. It doesn't always look like ease or comfort. Sometimes protection from God comes wrapped in silence, struggle, and separation. But His wisdom is never absent, even when His plan feels hidden. That's why today we're diving into 6 powerful signs that may be showing up in your life right now, signs that God is actually protecting you, not punishing you. But before we get to those signs, we have to talk about something even more important: the way pain changes us, and the way it can become our path back to peace. Pain often makes us feel isolated. When we're hurting, we start to question everything: our decisions, our worth, our place in the world. We feel misunderstood, disconnected, alone. But it's in these exact moments that our hearts become more open to something deeper, something that lasts beyond the surface. Patience, gratitude, stillness, trust in God. Those are the qualities that can't be learned through comfort. They're grown through experience, through loss, through healing, through endurance. And here's something else to remember. Not all delay is denial, not all loss is punishment, not all silence is abandonment. There's wisdom in the waiting, growth in the quiet, mercy in the redirection. There's a beautiful verse in the Qur'an that reminds us of this truth. Indeed, with hardship comes ease, not after with, meaning even inside your hardest moments, there is goodness forming. Maybe you can't see it yet, but it's there. It might show up as the friend who checks in right when you're about to break. It might be the small peace you feel during prayer after days of anxiety. It might be the idea to start over and the strength to follow through with it. These are not random. These are signs that God is still writing your story, not ending it. In this video, I'll walk with you through 6 gentle signs that often go unnoticed. But each one is a quiet message. I am still with you. I am protecting you. You are not alone. This isn't about ignoring the pain or pretending to be okay. It's about learning how to see differently, to recognize divine care even in moments of disappointment. Because the truth is, protection from God doesn't always feel soft. Sometimes it feels like heartbreak. But what's removed from your life may be the very thing that would have hurt you in ways you'll never know. And when God protects you, it's complete, even when you don't understand it yet. So let's begin. Let's uncover the 6 signs that may already be around you, signs that God is watching over you with more love and mercy than you can imagine. You haven't been forgotten, you've been carried. To truly understand how God protects us through difficulty, let's step into the life of someone whose story holds incredible wisdom, a story filled with pain, betrayal, patience, and divine protection. Let's talk about Joseph, the prophet who was wronged by those closest to him, yet never left God's side. Imagine this: a young boy, innocent and full of dreams, is thrown into a dark well by his own brothers. Not strangers, not enemies, his own blood. They couldn't stand his presence. They envied him. So they planned to get rid of him, thinking they were ending his story. But what they didn't realize was that moment in the well was actually the beginning of something extraordinary. From the outside it looked like a tragedy, but from God's view, it was the first step towards something greater. Joseph was later found and sold into slavery, taken far from home, a place where no one knew his name, where no one cared about his pain. He could have fallen into despair. He could have fallen into despair. He could have given up hope, but he didn't. Even in a foreign land, surrounded by strangers, Joseph stayed firm in his faith. He carried himself with dignity. He made the best of where he was, trusting that God still saw him. And then things got worse. He was falsely accused by someone he trusted, and he was thrown into prison, not for a crime he committed, but for refusing to betray his values. Now think about that. He did the right thing and still ended up behind bars. How many times have we been there, doing our best, choosing the honest path, saying no to temptation, and still things go wrong? But Joseph's story teaches us something vital. Sometimes God puts you in places you never asked for to protect you from outcomes you cannot see. That prison was not punishment, it was protection. Because while Joseph sat behind those cold stone walls, God was setting the stage for his rise. A rise that would not just restore him, but place him in a position of leadership, mercy, and justice. Eventually, Joseph was released. His character, patience, and wisdom brought him into the heart of the palace. And in a turn no one could have predicted, He became a powerful figure, entrusted with protecting others during a time of famine. But the most powerful part of his story isn't just his rise. It's what happened when he was finally reunited with the very brothers who had betrayed him. They came to him desperate and starving. They had no idea who he was. And Joseph had every reason to seek revenge. He could have turned them away. He could have punished them. But instead, he forgave them. He wept. He showed them compassion, because by then he had realized something profound. Every pain had led him to a place of protection. Every rejection was a redirection, and every delay was part of a divine design. There's a verse that captures his spirit in that moment. He says, "Indeed, my Lord is gentle with whom he wills. Truly, he is the all-knowing, the all-wise." Let that settle in for a moment. Gentle with whom he wills. That's what divine protection looks like. It's gentle, but it's not always obvious. It doesn't always come with immediate relief or visible outcomes. Sometimes it looks like a well. Sometimes it looks like slavery. Sometimes it looks like prison. But all along, God is guiding, shielding, building strength, and preparing you for what's next. Joseph's story reminds us that we don't need to understand every step to trust the journey, and we don't need to see the end to believe that God is already there. So if you feel betrayed, remember Joseph. If you feel forgotten, remember the prison. If you feel broken, remember the well. And most of all, remember that your story isn't over. You're still being written, not by chance, but by the one who protected Joseph and is protecting you too. Now let's bring Joseph's story closer to our lives. Because maybe you're not sitting in a prison like he was, but emotionally, it feels like you are. Maybe you're trapped in a situation that feels hopeless, a job that drains you, a relationship that confuses you, a season of life that feels like one closed door after another. You try to hold on to faith, but there's a part of you that wonders, where is the ease? Where is the healing? Where is the healing? When will it get better? That's where the story of Joseph becomes so real, because he didn't get answers right away either. He didn't get a quick escape. He waited. He trusted. He stayed connected to God, even when he had every reason to give up. And you can do the same. Your pain might not come from betrayal by brothers, but maybe someone you trusted deeply walked away from you, left without a reason, or worse, broke your heart with lies, and you still replay those conversations in your head, wondering what you did wrong, wondering why God didn't stop it. But maybe he did stop something, just not the way you expected. Maybe that heartbreak was the beginning of your healing. Maybe that loss was making space for peace you couldn't find before. Or maybe your struggle isn't heartbreak. Maybe it's failure. You applied for that job with your whole heart. You worked hard. You showed up. You waited. But nothing came through. And now you're questioning your worth. But what if that no was really a redirection? What if you were being protected from something you didn't see? A toxic work environment, burnout, spiritual distance. Joseph didn't know the end of his story when he was in the well. He didn't know he'd become a leader while sitting in that prison cell. All he had was trust, and that trust became his strength. It's the same kind of trust you're being called to have today, in the quiet moments, in the closed doors, in the waiting, in the confusion. God is still writing. He's still building. He's still protecting. And just like Joseph, you will one day look back and see how every delay was actually mercy. Sometimes the person who left was protection. Sometimes the job you didn't get was relief. Sometimes the path that changed unexpectedly was a blessing in disguise. There's a quiet kind of strength that grows when you learn to say, I don't understand what's happening, but I believe something good will come from it. That's trust in God. That's the kind of faith that carried every prophet through hardship. And it's the same faith that can carry you through this moment, no matter how heavy it feels. You don't need to have the whole picture. You just need to keep taking the next step, because healing doesn't come all at once. Answers don't always arrive immediately, but comfort does come, peace does come. And it begins the moment you stop fighting the pain and start leaning into trust. Let your heart breathe for a moment. Let go of the pressure to figure everything out. And remind yourself, even if life feels messy, even if nothing is going to plan, you are not unprotected, you are not alone. You are being guided, not by accident, not by luck, but by divine mercy. The same mercy that guided Joseph from the bottom of a well to the top of a kingdom is guiding you through the chapter you're living right now. You don't have to see the end to trust the author. So now the question becomes, what do I do while I wait? How do I cope while my heart is still hurting? How do I stay spiritually strong when everything around me feels like it's falling apart? The answer isn't complicated. It doesn't require perfection. It just needs you to return gently, honestly, and fully to the one who has never left you. Let's talk about some real practical steps you can take right now to reconnect with that sense of divine protection, even in the middle of emotional pain. First, talk to God, not formally, not with fancy words, just honestly. Sometimes people hesitate to make dua because they think it has to be perfect, that you have to say all the right things in the right order at the right time. But the truth is, God already knows what's in your heart. He's not waiting for a performance. He's waiting for connection. Your dua can be as simple as, God, I'm tired. Help me understand. Please don't leave me in this pain. The beauty of dua is that it opens the door to healing, not because your situation changes immediately, but because your heart starts to soften in the presence of the one who loves you most. Second, don't underestimate the power of prayer. Even when you feel disconnected, even when your mind is full of noise, even when your heart isn't fully there, keep showing up. Prayer isn't just an act of worship, it's a lifeline. It grounds you. It reminds your soul that no matter how chaotic life feels, there's still a place of peace waiting for you 5 times a day. And on the days when the weight feels too much, just getting up and standing before your Creator is an act of strength. Third, remember God often, even in the smallest ways. You don't need a quiet room or a perfect mindset. You can remember Him while walking, while cooking, while driving. Just whisper, I trust you. I know you're near. Thank you for what I still have. This quiet remembrance repeated throughout your day becomes a steady rope that pulls you back toward peace, little by little. Fourth, practice gratitude, even if it feels hard. When you're hurting, being grateful can feel unnatural, maybe even forced. But gratitude is not about ignoring your pain. It's about saying, even in this pain, I can still find one thing to hold on to. Maybe it's the warmth of your blanket, the smile of a child, the ability to breathe deeply, the fact that you're still here. Gratitude doesn't erase the hardship, but it changes the way your heart carries it. Fifth, give. Yes, even while you're struggling, even while your heart is heavy. When you give, whether it's your time, your support, your money, or even just your kindness, you invite healing into your life. You shift your focus from your pain to someone else's need. And often, that shift becomes the very thing that helps you feel whole again. There's something deeply spiritual about serving others while you're still in the process of healing. It reflects true faith and invites even more mercy into your life. Let me share a real example. There was a young woman who went through a devastating divorce. She felt lost, ashamed, and unloved. For months, she stayed in bed, questioning her worth, until one day she decided to volunteer at a local shelter. She said, "I thought I was helping them, but really they saved me." Her pain didn't vanish overnight, but her heart began to heal in a new way, through purpose, through service, through knowing that her story wasn't over. Maybe your way of giving won't be the same, and that's okay. It could be as simple as checking on a friend, smiling at a stranger, listening when someone needs to talk, because healing doesn't always happen in solitude. Sometimes it happens through connection. And finally, be kind to yourself. You are not weak because you're struggling. You are not faithless because you're hurting. You are human. Even the strongest hearts break. Even the most faithful believers have moments of doubt. God sees your tears. He hears your silent prayers. He knows how hard you're trying, even when no one else does. You're not being judged for your wounds. You're being held gently, lovingly, by the one who understands your heart better than anyone else ever could. So if today feels heavy, if you're unsure how to move forward, start with one small act of faith. Make one heartfelt dua. Say one short prayer. Speak one kind word. Take one deep breath. And remind yourself that healing is happening slowly, silently, spiritually. You don't need to rush. You don't need to pretend. You just need to trust that even in this moment, God is protecting you, guiding you through a kind of healing that lasts. And when you come out the other side, you'll see the wisdom in every step. You are not forgotten. You are not being punished. You are protected in ways you can't yet imagine. Let's talk about real life now. Because it's one thing to hear a powerful story, and it's another to walk through your own. You might be holding this pain right now, quietly, silently, while life keeps moving around you. Maybe you're stuck in a toxic relationship. It drains you. You cry more than you smile. But you keep trying to make it work because you're afraid of what will happen if you walk away. You wonder if it's wrong to leave or if staying is the test. But sometimes protection from God is the strength to walk away, not out of rebellion, but out of self-preservation. Sometimes the person you're holding on to is the very thing God is trying to remove to bring you peace. Or maybe you're facing unemployment. You've applied everywhere. You've sent in resume after resume, and still silence. You start to feel worthless, like your efforts don't matter, like the world has no place for you. But maybe this delay isn't a rejection. Maybe it's space for you to explore something new, build a skill, or even reconnect with your faith in a way you never could when you were working non-stop. One brother once shared how he didn't get a job he prayed for. It broke him, but months later he got hired at a small company where he met someone who introduced him to a new career path, one that gave him purpose, peace, and financial stability. A job that never existed in his plans, but was always in God's. Sometimes what looks like failure is just redirection. And then there's the silent struggle so many of us carry, mental and emotional exhaustion. You're tired, but no one can tell. You smile, but it's forced. You're surrounded by people, but still feel alone. You try to be the strong one, the reliable one, the one who doesn't break, but inside you're quietly falling apart. This kind of struggle is real, and it's valid. And the most beautiful thing is, God doesn't just see your actions. He sees your exhaustion too. He rewards your silent battles. He knows when you force yourself to pray through tears. He knows when you say, "I trust you," even when you're filled with fear. Maybe this test isn't about proving your strength. Maybe it's about teaching you to lean, not just on yourself, but on Him, because healing doesn't always come in the form of answers. Sometimes it comes in quiet resilience, in knowing that even if no one else sees your pain, your Creator does. So how do we apply this? How do we carry these spiritual truths into the reality of our day-to-day? Start small. If a relationship is hurting your soul, ask yourself, is God trying to make space for peace in my life? If your plans aren't working out, ask, what could I be protected from that I cannot yet see? If you're mentally drained, allow yourself to rest without guilt. Trust that slowing down doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Make space in your life for the signs of protection to appear. You might notice a friend you needed checking in out of nowhere. You might get delayed by a few minutes and avoid something harmful. You might feel an urge to change direction and later realize it was the best decision you ever made. These aren't coincidences, they're gentle whispers from God. I've got you, I'm steering you. You don't see it yet, but I do. And even when you make mistakes, because we all do, don't let guilt disconnect you from God. Protection isn't just for the perfect, it's for the struggling, the doubting, the ones who fall but keep crawling back. God's mercy covers those who sincerely seek Him, no matter how many times they've fallen. So when life gets hard, remind yourself, you're not cursed, you're not forgotten, you're being loved through the lens of protection. Yes, protection can feel like loss. Yes, protection can feel like delay. But in the end, you'll see it for what it truly was, love in disguise. You just have to trust the one who sees the whole picture and hold on, even if it's just by a thread, because even one whispered dua can reach the skies. So now take a deep breath. You've made it through this journey, not just of listening, but of reflecting, maybe even healing. And I want you to know something that your heart may need to hear right now. You are not being punished. You are not being forgotten. You are not being ignored by the one who created you. Sometimes the greatest protection from God doesn't look like a miracle. It looks like the breakup you didn't want, the delay you didn't expect, the silence that forced you to go inward, the pain that made you finally turn to Him. You may not see the wisdom yet, but you don't have to. All you need to know is that if something left your life, it didn't leave without God's permission. If something didn't happen, it didn't happen without His mercy. And if you are still here, breathing, living, praying, it means you're still being carried. There's a quiet kind of peace that enters your heart when you truly believe that nothing in your life is random. No hardship, no delay, no loss, no rejection. Everything is part of a divine design that's working, not against you, but for you. The signs of protection are all around you. The friend who checked in, the path you didn't take, the strength you didn't know you had. And maybe the fact that you're listening to this right now is one of those signs. So if you're in a season of confusion or heartbreak or waiting, don't rush to escape it. Sit with it. Pray through it, trust in it, because the one who allowed the storm is the same one guiding you to calm. He's not finished with you, He's just protecting what you can't see yet. So hold on to hope, hold on to prayer, hold on to the quiet knowing that you are never alone. And remember, you don't have to have the answers. You just have to keep turning back to the one who does.